Okay, let's unpack this a bit. You know that tape measure you've got kicking around in your toolbox?
Yeah, everyone's got one.
Exactly. And you know the basics, right? The inches, the feet, maybe those 16-inch marks. But what about those other symbols, like those little black diamonds?
Hmm.
Today, we're going to do a deep dive into what all those markings really mean. And trust me, knowing this stuff is super useful, even if you've been doing DIY for years.
It really is fascinating, isn't it? How these, well, seemingly simple marks on such a common tool are actually there for really specific reasons.
Like what kind of reasons?
Well, saving time, for one,
Mm-hmm.
but also making sure things are structurally sound, meeting building codes. It's all baked right in.
Huh. So all tapes have these.
Pretty much all modern ones, yeah.
Yeah.
The format might look slightly different sometimes, but the information is usually there.
Okay.
And some tapes even have this really neat feature, a bottom scale that's exactly half the top scale.
Oh, yeah. How does that work?
So say the top reads, I don't know, 11.5 inches. The bottom scale might show 5 3/4 inches right below it. Instantly gives you the center.
Whoa, wait. That's brilliant, especially for drilling or cutting accurately.
Exactly. No fiddly math, especially with awkward fractions. Makes finding the center just, lightning fast.
Okay, that double scale sounds like a real game changer, but let's get back to those standard marks. What's the first one most people doing, say, a wall project need to know?
Right. Well, the most common, the most fundamental, really, are those 16-inch on-center marks.
Okay, the 16-inch ones, often in red boxes.
Yeah, often highlighted somehow. Red boxes, sometimes just bolder numbers. And that's by far the most standard stud spacing you'll find in homes.
And why 16 inches specifically?
It's mostly about load-bearing capacity. That spacing is generally what building codes require because it provides a good balance between material use and strength. It can carry, significant weight.
Makes sense. So for a standard 8-foot wall.
For an 8-foot wall, using 16-inch centers means you end up with 7 studs. That gives you pretty robust support for drywall, sheathing, whatever you're putting up.
7 studs. Got it. So 16-inch is kind of the workhorse spacing. What about the other one you often see marked? Is it 24 inches?
Spot on. Yeah, the 24-inch on-center marks are also common to see on a tape.
And where would you use that? Because it sounds, well, weaker if the studs are further apart.
It is weaker, absolutely.
Mm.
You typically only use 24-inch spacing for things like small garden sheds, maybe some non-load-bearing interior walls in certain situations, places where the load is really minimal.
So probably not for the main walls of your house.
Generally, no. Most building codes won't allow it for larger structures or load-bearing applications. It does save a bit of lumber, though you use one less stud for every 8 feet of wall compared to 16-inch spacing.
Ah, okay. So there's a trade-off. Less material, but less strength.
Exactly. You save one stud, but it's really only suitable where the code permits and the loads are very light.
Right. Okay, now for the big mystery. Those little black diamonds. I've always wondered about those. What's their deal?
Ah, yes, the diamonds. They aren't quite as common knowledge, but they're super useful in specific scenarios.
Like what?
They usually appear at intervals of 19.2 inches.
19.2. That's oddly specific.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's a reason. It's mainly used for engineered floor joists or roof trusses or rafters, especially when dealing with standard 8-foot sheets of plywood or OSB subflooring or sheathing.
Okay. How does 19.2 inches help with an 8-foot sheet?
Well, think about an 8-foot span, which is 96 inches. If you divide 96 by 16 inches, you get 6 intervals, meaning 7 studs if you include both ends. Divide 96 by 24, you get 4 intervals, or 5 studs.
Mm.
But if you divide 96 by 19.2,
Let me guess. You get 5 intervals.
exactly, 5 intervals, which means you can place 6 joists or rafters under that 8-foot sheet, evenly spaced.
6 supports instead of 5 at 24, or 7 at 16. Why is that spacing useful?
It's often about optimizing for things like floor joists or roof trusses under specific load conditions, like heavy snow load sometimes. It allows for efficient use of engineered materials. Basically, spacing 5 supports evenly across an 8-foot span, so 6 joist rafters total, including the ends, gives you that 19.2-inch spacing. It's a slightly stronger setup than 24-inch centers using materials efficiently.
Wow. So it's another one of those engineered solutions, kind of balancing material use and strength for specific jobs.
Precisely. It shortens the span the sheathing has to cover compared to 24 inches, which adds stiffness and strength, particularly important for floors or roofs. It's a subtle thing, but crucial for those applications.
That's actually really cool. So bringing this all together, what this means for you listening is that next time you pick up that tape measure, you're not just seeing numbers.
Right, you're seeing a kind of code.
Yeah, a code for load capacity, for material spacing, for different building needs, whether it's standard walls, a garden shed, or even laying out floor joists. It's like a cheat sheet built right in.
It really is. And it makes you think, doesn't it? We just talked about one simple tool, the tape measure, and look at the clever design packed into it.
Totally.
It raises that question, what other tools are sitting in our workshops or even just everyday objects around the house that have this kind of hidden ingenuity we just take for granted?
That's a great point. Makes you look at things a bit differently. So now you know. When it comes to tape measures, you're basically equipped like a pro. Go measure with confidence.